right, welcome back to another tier list. And this time we're doing a little bit of a combined class because there isn't a lot of these trucks. And we're going to talk a little bit about why I think there isn't a lot of these trucks, but also why I like using these trucks. There's a lot of like decent trucks, a lot of trucks you get in the game that you start off with, obviously. So there's some nostalgia. There's going to be some bias, and I'll call out the bias when it comes around. But this again is from the hard mode perspective. So this is based on, you know, if the vehicle is free versus you have to buy it, how much it costs when you have to buy it. Is it worth buying? Is it worth transferring? So, I mean, as you can see, we renamed some of the classes. S is the best of the best. A, I would put it in the very good and worth transferring when you're playing in hard mode. Worth paying that $3,500 to transfer to another region. B is okay, but probably wouldn't buy it or probably wouldn't transfer it. That kind of thing. Which is rare for the free ones. Let's put it that way. We're going to start with the free ones. But there's a lot that I probably wouldn't buy, and we'll explain those reasons. And then C are the not very good, but also if you want to use them as skill expression, if you want to say, I can prove to you that this truck works, or you just like a challenge, these are the trucks I would tell you to buy or use, and we'll go from there. So we're going to throw some music on, and if you can guess what region the music is from, leave a comment below. And let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we got the Fleetstar, and it's your first OG truck, right? It carries you through Michigan. The way you see it is the way that I would equip it. I would throw a mini crane on it. I would throw the flatbed or the sideboard bed that you get from the GMC on it, and just send it, right? But it kind of gets outclassed pretty early. Good. I mean, it's one of those trucks that I use because I make content, right? I wouldn't ever sell this truck, though. This is a good truck to turn into a fuel truck. This is a good truck to transfer with you. And it's free, right? It's one of those trucks that you get for free, but it is flippy. If the maximum torque you get out of this one once you get to the Alaska motor is 155,000 torque. The reason why I wouldn't use it, which we're going to show you here, the reason why I wouldn't use it with a low saddle is because it contacts the frame like this. So you can actually lift tires off the ground. You can lift the trailer off the ground. It's not really meant to ever be used with a low saddle. You'll have issues. So I would suggest not using it with a low saddle. Just keep it with the sideboard bed. Keep it as a contest runner. Keep it as a fuel truck, you know, that kind of thing. Transfer it with you to other places. But I'm thinking it's up to you. I mean, this is your save if we're talking about hard mode. I wouldn't sell this truck. I really wouldn't sell it. I would keep it as a fuel truck probably and transfer it, but it's going to probably end up in low A. Just because it's free. Again, hard mode, we're not factoring in that this is only a $30,000 truck, right? The the price is cheap if you want to buy a second one of these, but it's one of those things that you do get two of them as you play through as well. You get a second one in season 9, which comes with a long log front carrier and a long log trailer that you get in that season, and you can use it to do the one long log in that season if you want. But yeah, it's not the greatest truck. I don't know, it's sort of a, we might move this one, but that's kind of where I'm gonna settle on that one. So let's move on to the next one. GMC, the good old GMC MH9500. So this is essentially, if you're playing in normal, you'll get this truck first. You'll find this truck, and then you have to basically take it back to the garage. You fix the bridge, you take it back to the garage, it becomes your first truck. In hard mode, it's not really your first truck. In hard mode, this is something that you have to go out of your way to find, but you end up getting it, obviously. And you want the that sideboard bed off of it so you can give it to your Fleetstar. And this truck, how you're seeing it though, with a low saddle, loaded up, two-wheel drive. Mind you, you can see there's all-wheel drive on this one because this is a save that I'm just using to show you. But in Michigan, this truck is best used like you see it here, with a mini crane, two-wheel drive, diff lock if you got it already. This has got all-terrain tires on it, and it is a workhorse. If you follow the rule of weight on wheels and just drive this thing in places that it can go, right? Don't take it to places it can't go. And then once you get the all-wheel drive for it in Cola, it becomes a beast. This thing actually becomes a really good truck to take with you and take places. Not the most stable thing, not the most fuel efficient, but it's also not the worst. But it becomes a very useful truck. Again, all-wheel drive, definitely would transfer this truck. But yeah, it's a good truck to use, just bombing around easy maps. And I really have some bias towards the GMC. I will say that it's one of those trucks that I like using just because it's sort of a skill expression thing. But yeah, I think, in all honesty, if you say before the all-wheel drive, I would put it here, right? I would put it below so like in the early game, right, before you get to Cola. But then once you get to Cola, it would probably jump up above. But we're gonna pretend like it's the beginning of the game, and we're gonna leave it below the Fleetstar. Fleetstar, like I said, is just such a carry for the beginning of the game. But definitely, I would say not. So this is worth transferring again. Again, both of these trucks can become fuel trucks and get moved along with you, because in hard mode, if you sell your truck, it's half the cost. Now, this is only a $26,000 truck, but you're going to lose out on quite a good truck, especially once you get its all-wheel drive. Again, you get two of these, a second one in Season 9 again. So again, both of these are worth getting. They're free. I wouldn't sell it because, like I said, every truck that you have can potentially become a fuel truck in hard mode. So yeah, these are probably destined for fuel trucks eventually, or again, if you feel like calling it a skill expression thing, to use them in certain situations. But I like both of these trucks, and that's a bias thing and a nostalgia thing. So all right, moving on to the next one. Oh, the good old Kodiak. I affectionately call it the Wobblyak. But yeah, it's one that you get for free again. This is one you have to pick out of a swamp in Black River, and you get this one twice as well. So again, we're following a pattern. The original Michigan vehicles, you get this one again in Yukon, actually, with kind of how you see it, actually, with the flatbed and raised suspension and that kind of thing. So you do get a little bit of an upgrade to it. This one does not get its all-wheel drive until Alaska, but it becomes a pretty good truck, obviously. You can't do a crane, which kind of makes it bad for hard mode. So this one pretty much is destined to become a fuel truck or become money. The other bad thing about this one is the hitch. The hitch position is a little too far forward, as you can see here. I want to say this one also has contact issues, even though it doesn't appear to be doing it here, but it does, from what I remember, have contact issues where it'll lift the front. Yeah, there it goes. Where it's lifting the front tires off the ground or trying to lift the trailer off the ground. It's not, like I said, it's there. This one's definitely like if it becomes a fuel truck, transfer it, right? But if you need some money, I don't know if I would sell this one until I got to Alaska, or you could just wait. You could hold off and, I guess, sell the upgrade that you get in Alaska, because you get half price for selling add-ons as well in Yukon. It also lacks some torque. So yeah, I don't know. It's not the greatest. It's 145,000 torque. You do have some wheel lockup issues. That single axle really kills it. And the ability to not have a crane. You can't really use it as a low saddle, but the only way you can have a crane is with a low saddle. I normally keep this one around just because I like it as a skill expression vehicle, but this is the first one we're going to put down here because it is so tippy. It's so much more tippy than even the Fleetstar with the raised suspension. You can use this thing for long logs. Again, this is a skill expression thing, but it's just not the greatest of vehicles. Now, you're going to say, well, how come you didn't put the Fleetstar in that category? Well, that's, again, a little bit of bias, but the Fleetstar will do things that the Kodiak cannot. Mainly because you get a bigger engine for it in Alaska, so once you get that bigger engine, it doesn't really have stall or torque issues, whereas this one does. So you'll find that as we go through. Like I said, some of them may or may not make sense to you, but just, again, consider it from the perspective of playing on hard mode. This is not a normal mode save. This is not something where you can sell it and buy it back. This is, you have to make a decision every time you sell a vehicle. This is one that I might tell you to sell to make some money. Even though, again, it's not a very expensive vehicle. It is the most expensive of the three so far at $33,800, so you get a little bit more money out of this one. A little bit, but not a lot. But again, every little bit helps in that beginning of Michigan, so this one might be a sell in Michigan unless you need it as a fuel truck. So yeah, that's what I would say there. All right, moving on. The Transtar. As many of you know, probably one of my favorite skill expression vehicles. This one, I like to prove people wrong, and people think that it can't do things when it can. But as you see it now, no weight on wheels, no diff lock, no all-wheel drive, good tires. This one, I believe I'm using the OMD3s, but it's really not a good vehicle. Let's just start with that. I like to use it to prove to people that the not good vehicles can still do things, but as you can see, it's struggling getting up this hill with no weight on the wheels. Now, you put this thing with a low saddle and you put a fully loaded trailer on this thing will climb right up this hill. But you're going to see we're going to struggle, obviously, trying to get up the hill. But then you can use it for things like, you know, hauling big trailers. So, I mean, it's definitely like one of those nicer things to have around if you want to use it as a skill expression vehicle. It works quite well as a fuel truck as well. So this one is one that I would probably keep around, but that's a bias thing. I don't know. I think this thing will surprise you if you use it correctly, I guess is the way that I would say. And you get it for free. You only get it one time. You have to pull this one out of the swamp in Smithville. It is fully beat up and damaged, so you have to sink repair points into it. A lot of people will just sell this one, which is okay. Again, you can sell it at your game if you so choose. I would keep it. It again is a little bit more expensive than the other two. It's $31,900. But it's got to go in the skill expression category. But I'm going to put it actually. Now this is going to sound weird. This is the bias coming in. It's going to go above the Kodiak, even though it doesn't have diff lock or all-wheel drive, just because I think that this is more fun to use. I still wouldn't tell you to transfer this. This is neither of these vehicles, unless they become fuel trucks, I wouldn't pay to transfer. I wouldn't go out of my way to buy extra of these. Like I said, you get you total of these two here, you get 3 vehicles out of it for free. So again, if you want to keep them around and not sell them, there becomes a point where money becomes not an issue in hard mode, so they're worth keeping. only if they stay as fuel trucks in reality, right? They're not the greatest vehicles. These trucks you can use to do work, and they do quite well at doing work. These trucks, let's be honest, you really can't unless you're just trying to show off. So I'll just be honest about it. It's something that I like showing off because they're fun. They're fun for me to use, but they're not fun for everybody. You will have struggles. You will get annoyed. You will get stuck. You will need to be recovered. These trucks can probably do most things without being stuck. So that's definitely one of the things that I would go with. But moving along to the next one of my favorites, the White Western Star. So we're going to show you a couple of quick clips trying to attach trailers. Now with the flatbed and a crane, you can't attach a trailer, which is kind of a bummer because a lot of people like to use vehicles in that configuration of crane, bed, trailer. With the logging add-on, with the medium log, is one of the first vehicles that you can tow the medium logging trailer and also other trailers around. So if you're going to use this as a logging vehicle without the crane, or even flatbed without the crane, same thing, it can do trailers. So if you decide to use it that way, the way I like to use it though is this way, which is low saddle, mini crane. This is the way this truck is meant to be. You can't change my mind on this one. The old White Western Star, man. Once you get this truck, this is the dominator of all the base game maps. This thing will carry you through Michigan, Alaska, and Tamir. It is stable. You get the better engine again from Alaska. It's the same one that goes in the Fleetstar. Once you get that top engine, you don't really have too much in the way of power. There is a little bit of power struggles here and there. You will get it where it will decide to lock up, and I think it actually does lock up going up this hill here in a second, but yeah, there it goes right there. You'll get it where if you're fully loaded or if you're overloading, it'll lock up. Other than that, though, this thing is just a beast. It has a nice size fuel tank, 300 liters or 80 gallons. It can get most places. It has a really good, there it goes, there's a good lockup. It can go most places. I would tell you to probably never sell this truck. This is one that I would bring everywhere. You're going to use this truck a lot, all the way through the game in many of the harder maps or even the easier maps. This is a good truck to bring along. So based on that, we're going to put it above the Fleetstar in A. Again, I wouldn't go out of my way. You get two of these too. You get one here and then one in Season 10. So you start out with this truck, but then you get another one. They give you a bonus one. That kind of brings me to the... I guess I don't really know why they don't do... It's such a weird thing that they don't like give us other vehicles, right? There's so many other vehicles in the game that you don't get. This one is worth a little bit more, 48,800. Again, max torque 155, same as a Fleetstar, once you get that engine from Alaska. So it's a little bit underpowered, but that's sort of where the heavy duty class lines up, right? Until we get to some of the more expensive DLC ones, which we'll be getting to here in a bit. But these are definitely some of my favorite trucks. Obviously, these three, and this is bias. All three of these are bias. That's why they're in A. I think you'll find the same though once if you actually use these and don't just sell them immediately. You'll probably agree with me. It's one of those things that the White Western Star and the Fleetstar especially, and even the GMC, once you get the all-wheel drive, become workhorses, right? Where you can just rely on them to do work for you. And you may not take them in the deepest of mud, but that's what you have for your off-road class vehicles for. So yeah, we'll get into some additional things here, obviously, but we'll move on to the next one. One of the other skill expression vehicles, the old CLT 9000. So this one you have to buy, which I guess okay, you know, it is what it is. But it's, again, they could have given us, like, instead of a second, I don't know, a second Fleetstar or a second Kodiak, they could have given us one of these, right? But I mean, it's a decision that they made. This one you have to buy. It's $41,300. It's a little bit longer than the Transtar, which is why I don't necessarily like it as much, but it is one of those trucks that would fall into that class of you only buy it to show off, right? Like, it's not very good. It doesn't have all-wheel drive. It doesn't have diff lock. It's fun. It's very fun to use, but it kind of has a problem where, like, the front end bounces off the suspension. Like, it feels like the front end needs a raised suspension, even though it already is. And I don't know. It's not the greatest of vehicles. Like I said, I don't go out of my way to buy this one unless I need to buy a cheap fuel truck. But you can always just buy another Fleetstar or something, or even another GMC for $26,000 and get diff lock and all-wheel drive. So yeah, I don't know if I'd ever really go out of my... this is one that I wouldn't go out of my way to buy it. And because of that, it's going to go down here in the skill expression category again, which you're going to find a trend. You're going to find a trend with this category. Unfortunately, this is where most of the highway trucks live, but there's a few that sneak out of there. So yeah, it's one of those fun to use, fun to show off, but not the greatest of trucks, right? So we'll move on now. This handles the trucks that you get from the base game that were not part of any DLCs. Now we're going to move on to some of the DLCs, and now the first DLC pack was the CT680 and CT681. It came as part of the anniversary pack, basically, is what they called it. I want to say it came out around season 4 when Cola came out, and it was a freebie. It was the only freebie they gave us. 2 trucks for free. You just download it. Anybody that owns the game can own this pack. They are not the most expensive purchases, which is what's nice about these. CT680 is only $58,300, so it's a cheap purchase. I think the biggest issue with this one is the trailer issue, which we'll show you a little clip here, basically showing that even with the mini crane and the flatbed, you can't attach trailers. So if you're a fan of, crane, bed, trailer, not the truck for you. It will not work with that, even though the next one does work with it, but we'll get to that in a second. This one, I think its biggest problem is its ground clearance, which we're going to show you here. Normally, lower center of gravity is good, but I think this one's a little too low. There's some collision issues with the frame, where it gets hung up on stuff, where you can see we're trying to cross the river here in Season 10, and it's just getting hung up, and we can't get across. We're kind of getting stuck. We're having to winch our way through. It also bangs its fuel tank on the ground a lot. So it's kind of annoying there. This one is one that it's such a hard one to purchase when the other one exists. Let's just put it that way. Like, this one is like, I don't know, it's just not... It's okay, right? I think this is the first one that we're gonna see go into the B class. But like I said, as you can see, it's struggling its way through here. It can't really seem to, like, get unhung, and it's just because it sits lower and has more collision model than its brother, the CT681. And like I said, this one from the very beginning of the game, it's sort of level locked, so you wouldn't buy it, like, right immediately, and you wouldn't have money for it anyhow. But it's definitely like a good, like, second map, like Alaska purchase if you save up, you know. So I would say this one is gonna go into the B. Probably wouldn't buy. It is okay. Again, this is a little more than C. But because, again, this is, you're going to say, well, this truck is way better than the Fleetstar and the GMC especially. Again, keep in mind, this is from the perspective of hard mode. You get 2 of these for free, 2 of these for free, 2 of these for free, none of these for free. You have to buy this one at 58,300. You have to equip all of its upgrades, which costs you in the ballpark of another 25,000 if you add a crane. So I mean, you're talking 80,000 roughly to fully equip one of these out. Is it really worth it to buy one of these? I don't think so, personally. Again, so just looking at it, if you got this truck for free, you're playing normal, it's just in your storage, or you're playing New Game Plus where you have, you know, DLC trucks enabled and they're just in your storage. Absolutely use this truck. It's very fun to use. It's going to get hung up. You're going to experience it getting hung up. It does make a pretty decent low saddle truck again. Decent fuel economy, decent power. However, it's just one of those weird trucks that doesn't really give you as much, and it's also got a little bit less torque than its brother at 192,000. This one's got the 2700T, which everybody, I feel like there's like a weird barrier of that engine versus the one that comes in the CT681 is a little bit higher. So let's move on to that CT681. We'll start real quick by showing you that it does attach trailers, unlike the other one, but we're going to jump into going into the same thing. Now, this is one of my favorite trucks. Bias is going to come into play here. But this truck can go through that same spot, which this is again in Season 10. It does need to winch. I'm not going to say that it doesn't, but it definitely like cruises through in spots where the other truck was getting hung up. But this truck is more fuel efficient, more torque, more ground clearance, has the ability to do crane bed trailer, is an infinitely powerful low saddle truck. This one is by far probably my favorite truck in the game. This was one of the trucks when I did my research in Season 12, going in my hard mode backwards playthrough. This was the first truck we bought, and I would do it again. This truck is 78,800, so it's about 20,000 more than its little brother, the CT680. But it doesn't have any. Really, the only issue this thing has is it doesn't have a spare tire like the CT680 does, and it likes to pop front tires, particularly because the front tire is like all the way out to the corner. But this thing has no power issues, really no issues getting through rough terrain, can go in the hardest maps and do work, and is one of the most fuel efficient, a little bit less fuel, but it's one of the most fuel efficient trucks. That other engine that you get for it is such a winner of an engine. This one is going to be my first S tier. This is going to go in the best of the best. It kind of sucks, and I'm kind of foreshadowing, because as you can see, we're out of free trucks. So the only S-tier trucks from this point forward are going to be ones that you have to buy, but this is definitely the cheapest of them, which we're going to get into a little bit of how expensive trucks are in this game, and probably issues with that, and cost, and hard mode, right? So we're going to get into that a little bit with our next one, the GMC Brigadier. If you didn't have to buy this truck, okay, so you have to buy this as a DLC, you pay for it. It's by itself. If this was like in replacement again of a second Kodiak or a second Fleetstar or a second GMC, it would be a pretty darn good truck, I would say. And again, this is one that I will say definitely, if you own this truck and you play on normal mode, use this truck. It's very, very fun to use. But the big problem with this truck, it does come with a little bit more torque, which helps it quite a bit. It's got 170,000 torque, but it reduces its fuel economy by quite a bit too. However, this truck is by base price, not upgraded, $107,200. So this is where the beginning of price inflation of vehicles came around. I absolutely love using this truck. But again, it's not one that I would either buy or even bring with. It is you can use it as a crane bed trailer truck, so it has that fulfillment. It's a little tippy. It's pretty much just like its brother, the GMC 9500, where it can flip a little easily. The suspension is a little better on this one, I think. It's not quite as rigid, but because of that, it makes it a little tippy, a little scary to play with sometimes. But it's capable. It can get through stuff. It's going to use a little bit more fuel, but I have to put it in the probably wouldn't buy. And it's going to go, it's literally half the price of this one above it. So it's going to go below the CT680, even though this truck is more capable. And I would probably prefer to use this truck just based on looks. If we're doing a looks tier rating, this would get all screwed up and mixed up. But this, for functionality in hard mode and how expensive this truck is, there's just no point in buying it. And the problem, I think the biggest problem which you're going to see with pretty much all the rest of these is that they like went overboard on pricing. So this is my little rant about that of pricing is ridiculous. Stop it, Sabre. You're charging too much for vehicles. Normalize pricing, right? Like heavy duty class, or like can't be over 100,000, let's say, 80,000 tops, because off-road, same thing. Off-road, like most good off-road vehicles are less than this truck. Like you can buy Voron Grads for 83,000, I want to say. Even like the Voron D is like 80,000. So like, why would you buy this when you could buy this, which is almost $30,000 less, and infinitely better of a truck than this is for less money? When you're scraping in the beginning, you're scraping for every last penny that you earn in hard mode, and then once you get past those first few regions, buying trucks becomes a little more reasonable. If you want to buy one of these to screw around, you could, and you could even transfer. These are possible to transfer as well, but they're just not as good as these trucks are, in my opinion. A lot of it becomes because of the price, but so that's where we're going to leave that one. Let's move on to the next expensive one, the HX520. Let's just start by saying that this thing is $172,300. This is ridiculous how expensive this truck is. This was part of that anniversary pack as well, I believe. So you do get this one for free if you're playing on normal. Again, if you're playing on normal, use this truck. It's very fun. It's very capable. It's got that 2700T engine, which has got that 192,000 torque, which is sort of can almost stall out in some situations motor, but pretty darn good for everything as long as you're not going too crazy on the overloads, right? Like if you're doing what you see here, a couple metal beams, totally fine, just cruising around. This is a pretty easy map where it's driving, but it can go in very, very difficult spots and be okay. Just don't try and take it over rocks, because it's really bad at doing that. I learned that in using this in Cola. Rocks, very bad. But yeah, it's like any truck. Use it where you can use it, right? But yeah, this truck is very fun, very good looking. The engine sound is amazing, even though it's the same engine as everything else. Just they coded this engine to sound a little bit different. Not tippy really at all. It's almost, honestly, it's almost in the same class as, no, it's not. I shouldn't say that. It uses more, this engine uses more fuel than the one in the CT681. That CT681 engine is like universally magical, right? But this thing is it's like almost, right? Like it's not quite as good, it's not quite as fuel efficient, it's not quite as capable, I think, possibly because of the motor, but it's just so damn expensive. I don't know. This is a tough one. Where in the wouldn't buy would I put this? This is like a good A tier truck in my opinion. If I were rating it not in a hard mode situation and you got this thing for free, use the heck out of this truck. But because it's hard mode, because it's $173,000 before you put any upgrades on it, so I mean it's a $200,000 truck. Would I buy the GMC over it? Probably, because the GMC's got better power to weight. It doesn't have better fuel economy, but it's got better power to weight. It's got to go here just because of the price. I would probably buy the GMC. I mean, I wouldn't buy any of these trucks really, but I would probably pick this one first, then this one second, just because of price. So yeah, I think I like where that one is. Let's move on to the next one. One of the Wolfpack trucks, which is sort of a weird one. We'll talk about this in the heavy duty tier list, which is, or the, not heavy duty, the heavy tier list that is being worked on and will be coming out soon as well. But the other trucks in the Wolfpack list definitely belong in this list, which we'll talk about in that one. But this is the only one that remains, the 57X. I normally hate talking about add-ons, but we're going to talk about add-ons a little bit for this one, just because it's such a weird one. You can have a low saddle, a high saddle, or a crane, not any combination of the three. So you can have a crane, but you can't put a saddle on it, which, what the heck is the point of even having a crane? I don't get it. But yeah, this truck is a highway truck that has a lot of collision issues, which you'll find out if you play with this thing. There is a bumper that you're going to want to... There's a different bumper and like a different set of side skirts that I will tell you to look for when you're equipping this truck. I don't have a video of it, I apologize, but you'll know when you see it. There's a set of side skirts that sit higher, and there's a bumper that sits higher. Use those if you do use this truck. Again, this is one you get for free in normal mode and hard mode. It's just so expensive. It's another one of those that like got price inflated. $115,700 for this. It is a highway truck. It is a no diff lock truck. It is an all-wheel drive truck though. So it's like, I never would buy, again, this is one that I just wouldn't buy. This is not even a skill expression truck. This is just a don't buy this truck. Like, even if you own the Wolfpack hard mode, this is not one that I would go out of my way to buy. You can use it, like I said, for many things, many things. It's not the greatest at any of those things. I mean, I used it to pull, I did a low saddle, no crane, when I was doing season 13 in the quarries. I pulled 2 slate blocks out of the quarry with this thing, and it did it. I mean, it's got power. I mean, it doesn't lack torque. It's 220,000 torque in its best engine, so I mean, it's got tons of torque. I hate to even tell people to bother buying this one. This one's... I almost... Like, the reason why this is below is because these are trucks that people are going to complain are either too tippy or don't have all-wheel drive, right? I think is why I'm going to leave these as a C, but I could almost move these two could be interchanging places, right? Like, this is sort of one category right here. This is just the not so good, and then these ones are like decent trucks, but you just don't ever want to buy them, right? So I think I like the order of how this list is shaping up. But yeah, it's not a good truck. It's really not. So yeah, just stay away from this one. If you have it, I probably wouldn't buy it, and that's where this one's going to be, towards the end of the B class. It's not even one I like to show off with, right? Like, it's just like, Like, you can use it for that, but it's just not even worth it. So let's move on. The W990. This thing is a highway truck. Let's start with that. This is... I hate to say this, but this is like... It shouldn't even be a highway truck. It should be something else. It's the special coating. This is the world of special coated tires. Okay, so let's start with that. 3.1 mud rating, 3.4, I'm sorry, 3.1 dirt rating, 3.4 mud rating. That's higher than pretty much everything else, except for the Tuz Tatran default tires that are 8.0, and the other special coated tires like the P16 and the P512 that are slightly higher in mud at 3.5 and slightly lower in dirt at 3.0. Nothing else in the game is higher than this truck besides for those couple of trucks that are also special coated tires. And that's what carries this thing. That's what makes this thing so good. Now, that's not all that makes this thing so good. This thing has tons of fuel, first of all. It has a roof rack that has more fuel. It is a yellow crane truck. It is a very... It's a little fast. If you like going fast, this is... And you like the high-range gearbox, this truck can be very dangerous. It can very easily flip because you're going too fast. It's very fast. I usually recommend keeping it in off-road like you see here in either low plus or high to prevent it from flipping or taking too much damage. But it can flip. It is not the most stable truck in the world, but it is a highway truck. It's got 220,000 torque. Sorry, 228,000 torque. But it is $124,400 to buy. So this is, again, a DLC truck that you have to pay for. It is a pricey truck. It is worth every penny, though, in my opinion. As you can see, this is cruising through the river in Maine. This is the way I like to use it. It's a hauler truck, right? You don't really notice that it doesn't have all-wheel drive because of the special coated tires. The only time that this is the places you don't want to use this truck is, again, where there's rocks or rocky surfaces. So like in the quarries in season 13 is a no-go for this truck. You can get it through there, but it's not going to be fun. You're probably going to have to like smash it against the rock to get it over it, cause some damage, that kind of thing, whereas you could just take a truck with all-wheel drive and it would be fine. The all-time diff lock and the tires really make this thing what it is, and it's insanely fuel efficient, so you're going to just be able to drive forever on this thing. I've used this thing actually as a seismic vibrator truck, believe it or not. It actually works pretty good as that. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of uses for this thing. This was the second truck I bought in my main hard mode playthrough. And again, I bought it because of fuel efficiency. I bought it because, not because of the price, but because of its capabilities for what it can do. I have to put this one up here. This is the only highway truck that's going to make it up there, too. It is the best of this list, right? If we're considering the 16 trucks on this list, it's below the CT681 just because it's not all-wheel drive, but those special coated tires really push it over. Tires is something that we'll talk about quite a bit for the next few trucks here, because I left these to the end because we're going to talk about tires. But let's go ahead and jump into those trucks, starting with the Kenworth T880. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about tires and OHD ones. OHD, people generally don't know this about tires, but the coating of the tire, like OMDs, for example, are medium tires. Off-road medium dual. That's what the O stands for, that's what the M stands for, that's what the D stands for. These are OHDs, which is off-road heavy dual. Heavy means that this tire is twice as good or twice as heavy, which means it can support more load and has more pulling power than other tires. So these next four trucks are all going to have these OHD tires, and that's really what makes them as good as they are. However, the T880 is an anomaly. If this thing had all-wheel drive, it would be one of the best trucks in the game. The way I like using it is like you see here, again, low saddle, easier terrain, cruising up and down hills, just kick it in high, because it can immediately go in high as soon as you're rolling, pretty much. There's so much torque. This engine isn't even the top engine either. I like to use the lower engine because it's got only 255,000 torque. The top engine is 288,000, which is tied for the most in the game with the FEM, which is too much for this truck. That's the main problem that this truck has, is that it's got too much torque and not enough tire to support. Even the OHDs, as good as they are, it likes to spin the tires as soon as you get into icky stuff, which we're gonna see here. And it basically, like, once you don't have, if you follow the weight on wheels rule, it will be okay, but as soon as you try and dig out of that area with no weight on wheels, it just spins the tires and it just can't get out. So you're gonna get stuck in this truck. The other thing, again, this is a DLC truck that you have to pay money for, real life money. This truck is $153,500. Okay, so in hard mode terms, again, if you're playing in normal, putz around with this truck, but I'd probably just leave it as a fuel truck or something, because then it'll always have weight on wheels. Just slap OHDs on it, turn it into a fuel truck, drive it around places, but you don't really need that in normal anyhow. So this one's gonna be, I hate to organize them by price. I'd probably put this one below the HX. I just wouldn't buy this truck. This, like, the HX I'd buy more because it's actually capable and can do things. All three of these can do work. They're just not worth the money. This one's not worth the money, and it really can't do work unless you keep it on very easy terrain, which there isn't a ton of. There is, but that's what these trucks are for. If you want to have easy terrain trucks, this truck is free. This one's free. This one's not free, but you could use these and show off your skill versus paying $153,000 for this truck. So that's kind of the way I look at it. So yeah, let's move on to the other of the Kenworth pack, though. And we have some special footage for this one as well from Season 15, but the C500. So the reason why I went to Season 15, or PTS in this matter, is to show off a little bit and also point out that this thing gets 51-inch tires coming with Season 15. The 51-inch tire, okay, so the big difference between, again, this is an OHD tire situation. You're going to always want to use OHDs unless you're using chains, then use the OHD chains as well, because they're also 200 weight tires. But you can see here, it's still, like, pulling with these OHDs with a full load on the new 6-slot trailer as well, which is a really heavy trailer with a really heavy load. And it just pulls through it because it doesn't seem to have a problem. The 51-inch tires really solved a lot of the ground clearance issues too, like going over these rocks. It could have gotten caught in the center. It can get high centered sometimes, this truck. That's the one problem with this truck, really. It's a little on the fuel thirsty side too, but it's got a pretty decent sized fuel tank with fuel on the roof. So therefore, it's similar to like a White Western Star, right? Like without a roof rack. But it's got more fuel than the White Western Star, so you're going to use more fuel, you know? But it's got OHDs, which makes it so it can do loads like this that you're seeing. And even though the trailer likes to get stuck, because this is one thing you'll notice with this new 6-slot trailer, is the trailer likes to get hung up on stuff. This is not the truck getting stuck, it's the trailer. But you can also, as you can see, put a piece of cargo and turn this trailer as much as you want. You could put a piece of cargo behind your crane flat and pinch it, or even a couple of pieces of cargo, and all you're doing there is adding more weight on wheels. So this thing is like an overloader's heaven. It's extremely stable. It's definitely, I would call it one of my personal favorites. Again, this is don't even think this is bias. I think this is just fact. This truck is going to carry in pretty much any region you take it to. I did a lot of work in Yukon with this thing. When this thing first came out, I was working on Yukon. And, I mean, look at this. It's like just crawling through this. And it can kind of do whatever. Like, this thing is, it doesn't really get stuck. It doesn't really have any problems pulling loads. The 192,000 torque is really the only thing that kills this thing. That's its max motor, is that 2700T again. So like, it's just, in certain situations, it's like just not enough power, like just barely. But as long as you just like manipulate gears a little bit, it can get through pretty much any terrain. The price tag. Here we go again with more fuel, with inflated pricing. 153,100 this thing is. Is it worth buying though? Absolutely. It's gonna go... It's gotta... It really... Because of the OHDs, really, I can't justify putting... If this truck had OHDs, if the CT681, the one that I'm hovering over here, had OHDs, it would skyrocket above most off-road trucks, in my opinion. Like, I'd probably use the CT681 over a Taiga, if this had OHDs. But it doesn't, so therefore the C500 wins. It's gonna go in the S tier, it's gonna go above that one. But it's such a good truck. I don't think you'll be disappointed if you buy the Kenworth pack and one truck sucks and this one doesn't as much as it does. Which moves us on to the next pack. Oh, our favorite one, the Mack Pack Attack. Oh, how people hated the Mack Pack when it first came out. Boy, this poor pack, I tell ya. Let's just say it got some improvements, and we're going to start with that vehicle, the Pinnacle. Let's hop into the garage. I just want to show some of the add-on capabilities. 2-slot, 3-slot trailer. 3-slot without a crane, though. You can't do the crane and the 3-slot at the same time. It's kind of interesting. You can't do the roof rack with the log crane, but this log crane is amazing. If you use this log crane, you'll understand. The way I like using it, though, is low saddle. You can use it this way, too. It actually fits. That doesn't, obviously. You can't do trailers, either, if you use the 3-slot, which kind of sucks, but 2-slot crane and trailer it can do. The one thing I will say, got some rear tires, spare tires, but there's also a tire, another set of 2 spare tires that mount below the frame on the bottom. Whatever you do, do not equip those spare tires because they affect the lack of... and I guess let's just show the video. There is like no collision to the bottom of this truck as long as you leave that big gap in the middle open. Now that big gap can also do the same thing that the C500 can do, which is pin a piece or 2 pieces or even 3 pieces of cargo just flat in there and pin it down with your crane, and this thing can just drive around happily with the trailer and that, and it doesn't matter. And again, it's got OHDs. The stability on this thing is insane. Like absolutely bonkers this thing gets. So mathematically, 10 liters a minute. I think this thing in the video you'll see gets up to maybe like 12 liters a minute. The calculation in this game for liters to gallons is somewhere, it's approximately 3.75. So if you take 12 and divide it by 3.75, it brings you into the low 3s, right? So that's like maxed out with a load, low 3 gallons per minute, or like 12 liters per minute, which is insane. So what they did to change this truck, they gave it all-wheel drive, okay? So that's number one. They reduced the fuel consumption of this truck, but they did give it the Mack engines. So there's no like weird 300 and something thousand torque engine like they originally thought there was. There is just a 232 torque, which is a lot. It's up there for vehicles that use this, but this is a good example of with all-wheel drive and lots of torque versus the T880, for example, with no all-wheel drive and lots of torque and OHDs. This thing is insanely capable. There's almost no collision. Nate Province goes over it really well on one of his videos about this pack, that they basically have come up with this new meta of trucks that have no collision. And this is one of them. And this one also, I'm going to compare it a little bit. People are going to get mad at me, and I don't care. Why did they not give this engine the tuning that they did to... This is the same engine that's in the Mack Defense. Make the Mack Defense this fuel efficient, and it would completely change my rating of the Mack Defense. Now, it doesn't fix the saddle position, which means you still can't use it as a low saddle. This thing's saddle position is great. They moved it slightly back of where it needs to be, which is perfect. Because then it doesn't have any collision issues with trailers. It makes it really stable. It just makes it long. It makes it kind of... You can high center this thing is really, again, the only bad part about this. But there's like nothing in the middle to hang on. So you don't really get stuck. You can just get hung. You have to like back up and try again. But yeah, this thing is... It went from being not the greatest. It was, again, more of like a skill expression vehicle to being quite possibly one of the best trucks in the game. Let's talk about this gearbox too. So this one and the Terrapro, and also the Mercer, which we're gonna have a little bonus section at the end for the Mercer, because the Mercer was supposed to be a highway truck, but it's not. It's now an off-road truck, but we'll get into that. I want to say that this setup, as you see here, can work in any single map in this game. There's more fuel. Actually, no, it's the same amount of fuel. It's the exact same amount of fuel as the Mack Defense, but there's double the amount of roof rack fuel. Is it double? No, I think it's almost double. It's 80 liters versus 140 liters, so it's like almost double. More fuel efficient. It's like half the amount of efficiency, and double the amount of repair points on the roof. Plus, it can have 2 spare tires, which the Mack cannot. Mack gets 1. It's only 2, so it's like half of everything, right? And this truck is more capable because it's got OHDs. You can't change my mind on that. OHDs are always going to be more capable. It doesn't have a third axle issue. It could probably use a third axle just for the length of the frame. Has more add-on capability, has a better log setup. The log crane is insane. I would 100% use this truck over, even though this is one you have to buy. You have to, again, pay real money for this DLC. This truck is $145,000, but it's going up here. It's like these two are sort of a personal preference horse apiece thing, in my opinion, but this one's got to go above the C500 just based on the fact that it's more torque and it's got that wicked log crane, and it's way more fuel efficient, so you can go way longer distance than you can on this. Even this thing isn't bad. This one's not as bad as the Mack Defense is, but it's still not good. Like this truck and this truck, the CT681, and even the, I guess, the W990 are all three of those are very fuel efficient trucks. But this one's just, it is the dominator. This thing is now the new king. This truck can compete with many of the off-road trucks and even some of the heavies, I think, in the ability to tow and pull things and do work in regions in this game. So definitely worth it. Let's move to the other and final of the backpack, the Terrapro. All right, so this thing is... I don't know really where to put this one. I wish this one would have gotten all-wheel drive because I love the looks of this truck the most out of pretty much everything in this class. It is a highway truck still. It does have OHDs again. It does have an all-time diff lock. It does have that fancy kind of highway-like custom gearbox. It just doesn't have all-wheel drive. So you're going to be limited to using it in places that you know you can use it. It can still get through stuff, as you can see here. It can crawl its way through dirty, muddy places with no all-wheel drive. Again, with weight on wheels. Now, if you take it to places that it can't go, which is quite a few places, like here, this thing will struggle, and you'll need to winch. You'll need to find winch spots. You'll be going slow. You will need to essentially pause your progress, and you're gonna eventually get stuck. So that's the bad part, is that, like I said, I wish this thing would have gotten in. Again, this is no weight on wheels, but I don't know. I wish this thing would have gotten all-wheel drive too, and maybe just moved into the heavy-duty class instead of highway. I don't know. I think this is one that works well as a low saddle again, but as you can see here, we're going to eventually get stuck, which is a bummer, because like I said, I really wanted to have this truck be the good one, because I did test this by changing game files all-wheel drive, and this thing turned into an absolute beast with all-wheel drive. Again, same thing. They changed the engines to this to be the 232,000 torque, good fuel economy engine, so it would have been just in the same boat with just different add-ons and less of that cool logging add-on. The question is, so this one costs less, but it's 129,800. It could go in either. Probably wouldn't buy. But I think I'm going to put it here, because this is like, again, one of those not two-wheel drive. You use it to show off. This thing is way better than the Transtar is. But it's also, you don't get it for free. I don't know. It's any of these, what, 9 vehicles here would be, you probably wouldn't want to buy it. And the ones that you do buy, you just turn into fuel trucks, and then they become pretty decent fuel trucks. Or these can do some of these can do some work for you. And you might transfer them. Like I said, you could put any of these 3 probably in A if you bought them, because they are worth the transfer if you buy them, especially. But pretty much these you just show off with, and if you're not showing off, you don't need to have these trucks. So it's kind of a bummer. But that's where the main part of the list goes. Let's do a little bonus section on the Mercer that should have been a heavy duty. Okay, so as you can see here, we're back in season 15 because this is PTS, and this has got Chat 4s mud tires. That's what they added. That's why they reclassified it, because they decided they wanted to put mud tires on it for some reason. In this configuration, where you're not pulling a load and you're using this cool little unique repair add-on that's got fuel and repair and that kind of stuff in it, as like kind of a little scout vehicle, I absolutely love using this truck this way. This is probably one of the ways I'm going to use this truck. It's got this really stout frame. The bad part about the stout frame, though, is it can't do, of course, it can't even do crane in bed, because it just doesn't have enough room. but it does have a unique bed that, can it do crane in bed? It can do crane in bed. It just can't do crane bed and trailer. No, I don't feel like that's true. No, it can't do crane in bed. No, it cannot. So yeah, no, it's, unless they change it, which again, it's season 15 hasn't fully come out yet, so this could change. But this got moved into the off-road class, and we're going to talk about where I'm going to place it in a bit, but we'll do a little addendum to the off-road tier list. But this thing is like super fun to use, but the way that I'm probably going to use it is like this, which is low saddle OHDs again. They've listened to us. They moved the position of the crane just a touch back, or not the crane, the low saddle. So this thing now is like a beast of a saddle truck. I wouldn't even bother with off-road tires, because this with OHDs will just pull through anything. It can equip, if you can see here, it can equip those two little spare tires in front of the crane and still have the crane and a low saddle with the roof rack, which has extra fuel. And it's got one of those custom gearboxes that acts kind of like a high range, but it doesn't have problems with like stalling like some of the high range gearboxes do. Of course it just stalled because I was stopped, but so this is probably how I'm going to use this truck. If it was in that range of, gosh, I don't even know. Oh, found some ice. There's honestly, this one probably would have been in the S. It probably would have been like, because it's free, but you don't get it obviously until the very end of the game if you're playing in order. Game is this season isn't even out yet, so this thing could change still, but it probably would have to go above the CT681 even, because this thing is, like, again, because of the OHDs. Also, you're going to need repair points in season 15 coming up. Spoiler alert, watch this. Yeah, there goes all of my suspension almost, and a tire. I'm lucky I didn't blow the tank. So you're gonna need to bring some repair points along in season 15. But yeah, this thing probably would go right here, below the C500 probably. It lacks a little bit of torque. Yeah, I think I would put it... Where is the Mercer? It's not on this list. I want to say it's 155,000 torque. So it's a little bit low on torque, but it doesn't really matter because it's so light, it's so little, that it doesn't really have problems. Maybe, again, sort of like the 2700T, where it can lock up in certain situations, but you just keep going and it'll go. So yeah, I mean, it would fit right up here in the S class if it were a highway. If it were not a highway, it is not. It is now an off-road. It's got to go above. I would put it essentially right here, above in the A class. I'd probably... It would go... I think it would probably move to the top of the A class right here. So yeah, that's where... If this would have been on the list at the time as an off-road class, I probably would have put it towards the top of A. It doesn't quite outclass the S tier trucks. It is extremely stable and extremely fuel efficient, but it just can't quite do as much with what it's got. And the off-road class is just the Vorons and the Taigas and that kind of thing just kill it in stability. It does have a yellow crane, which helps it quite a bit, but that's kind of where we would end up leaving it. But that is where we're going to leave this today's tier list. Keep an eye out for the next one coming out. Like I said, heavy is in the works. We pretty much have everything we need to know about the other Season 15 truck, the Slider. Don't think there's much in the way of changes coming with Season 15. There's not like a tuning of trucks that we know of yet. But if there is, I'll make a little addendum video to any of these. But thank you everybody for watching. Press that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment, angry or not. I'll respond to it. We'll see what we can come up with. Again, you may not agree with me, but this is my opinion for hard mode only. If you're going to play hard mode, this is where I would... This list that you see here is probably where I would put the available trucks in both the heavy duty and highway range. Unfortunately, these pretty much resides for one you have to pay real money for, and you also have to budget for in hard mode, but they're worth it. And these are just the OG A classes that are going to stay there. You can always transfer these to another map and they will be just fine. These ones are probably not worth buying, and these ones are more, I want to show off. They can do work if you force them, but you're not going to have as much fun as you will with these. So hope everybody's enjoyed. We'll catch you guys in the next one.